What's going on, guys? It's Ace Ka, and I played a game recently that's been on a lot of people's radar. It's gaining a lot of traction for some good reason. As I'm sure a lot of you have probably heard of this game called Doki Doki Literature Club. It's one of those visual novel thingies. One of those cute girl says she loves you and it makes you smile. One of those kind of things. And obviously, most people already know the fact. I mean, if you haven't played this game and you want to try it out, then obviously there's going to be huge spoilers ahead because that's just the way it is around here. But it's only that type of game on the surface level. It's still a visual novel, but it's not like a dating sim, really. It draws people in with that aspect, and then it's like, oh, surprise, it's not actually like that, haha. And it got me thinking about a lot of things about visual novels today. And I'm going to talk about Doki Doki, but then, I'm also going to talk about some other things because it's just something that's been on my mind, and give me an excuse to make a video and get some of that ad revenue, you know what I'm saying? So, the thing about Doki Doki Literature Club, I think, like, everybody, as far as I know, everybody who plays it and recommends it is a very big fan of the game, and they really love it. I'm not saying that the game is bad. It's not a bad game. It does some interesting things and plays with the visual novel genre a little bit, but I don't think it's as good as everyone says it is, because I feel like the game relies too much on the shock value aspect of what's happening rather than actually having good characters to begin with. No offense to whoever made it, Studio Salem or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but no offense to them, because they do some very inventive things with the genre. I think a problem that the game has is that because the characters are in the game to be sort of parodies of characters that you would see in an actual dating sim, that they fall kind of flat, because most stereotypical dating sims usually don't have that great of a character progression. And I don't know if this is purposeful to make the characters, like, they're not, I don't want to say they're bad, because I mean, they're fine, they're not exceptional, but they're plain. They're just very vanilla, normal characters, and none of them really stick out, except for, of course, Monica, but she's something else entirely. When I started the game, I think it's hard for anybody who gets into the game to not already know that it's going to be, weird or different, because that's how most people get introduced to the game, is that they see it and then somebody says, yeah, dude, it's crazy, you're not going to see it coming, is usually how people are introduced to it. I mean, when I saw it, it was just some thread and they're like, wow, I heard this crazy thing happened, and I'm like, okay, so it's one of those type of games. Like, most people who play it are already going to be aware that shit goes haywire. So I think that puts it at a bit of a disadvantage, not to discredit the game itself, but the fact that most people who are going to be playing it already know that it's not going to be what it lures people into thinking it's going to be, I think is a difficulty that game might have, because I'm already expecting things to go wrong. I already know that when Sayori tells me that she's depressed and I tell her that I don't love her because I'm going after some other girl and she decides to kill herself, I mean, I can see that coming. So I think that's a bit of a detractor for it. As anyone who's played the game knows, the basic gist is, there's a girl named Monica, and she's the programmer of the game, and she wants you to be hers, and she's crazy. I don't know. She's insane. I don't quite understand her motivations. Like, what I mean is, like, she's not very well written, because she just loves you just because. And she says that she's been trapped in this world, and she thought she could draw you in with this thing that she's created, and that's fine. Like, I mean, I guess that's fine, but I don't know why she would just, like, why she's so obsessive over me, because clearly she makes the statement that the game is put out online, and that anyone can download it. So I'm not the only person who's interacting with her. Although she sets it out to be like I am, and the narrative puts it that way, it doesn't make sense that she's so obsessive over me and wants me to be with her. It's just kind of dumb. I don't understand her motivations for wanting to ruin the lives of everyone in the game just for herself and me. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But those are my gripes. Gripes is a good word. My gripes with the game. It's not bad. It's not a bad game. I just think it needs more. It needs more to go off of than just the pure shock value alone. Because if that's all it's standing on, and the only reason people are talking about it really is because it does that, and it's not because the characters are super, interesting or well written. It's just that, wow, this game does something that most visual novels don't do. And that's, break the fourth wall and have that kind of interactivity. It's just not a typical thing. And so that brings me to what most visual novels today's problem is. Now, I'm not a big visual novel connoisseur. I don't download every single VN that comes out and I'm like, oh yeah, this one's good, this one's not. I'm not crazy like that. But I do know that if a visual novel were so good that people were to be talking about it all the time, I probably would have played it because it is getting that attention. And as far as I know, a lot of visual novels today are just getting pushed out. We're getting a lot from these indie developers because they all want to tell their own story and have their own characters and all that. Good for them that they want to do that. But none of them are really hits. You know what I mean? You see them all the time on Steam. They're all over the place. They're getting really popular. And it's kind of like, it's just a way for artists and writers to work together on a project, I guess. But none of them are really very good. And the last time that I can remember a visual novel being this big, at least in the West, would be Katawa Shoujo. And that was like 5 or 6 years ago. And the reason that game was so popular was not because it was a hentai game, because there's plenty of those. It's not because it didn't do anything that visual novels before it didn't do. It's just a normal visual novel game, right? But it has well-written characters, and it was put in publicity because it was developed by an indie group of people. And they wanted to make something special and unique to them, and they put a lot of time and effort into it and created good, memorable characters and interactions without relying on, fourth wall breaks or just the hentai CGs alone. I mean, if you go, and you can go literally anywhere and get a hentai CG game, most characters in those type of games are just garbage, honestly. I mean, that shouldn't come as a surprise, though, because the characterization and the development is not the draw of those games. Katawa Shoujo has hentai CGs, but it doesn't rely on them to draw people in because it develops its characters well enough that it doesn't need that to get people to buy it, or it's not even, you don't even have to buy it, it's a free game. So I mean, you know what I mean? And a lot of the problem with these visual novels that are coming out today are that they're not well written. They're rushed, or like Dream Daddy. What is that? Who approved that? Who thought that was a good idea? It's disgusting. It's horrible. And games like Katawa Shoujo, or another visual novel that I quite like a lot is Cartagra, Memory of the Soul. Games like that are good dating simulator visual novels because they have good characterization outside of the other reasons why somebody would want to get them, like hentai CGs or whatever. And Katawa Shoujo was so successful because it was a lot of people's first foray into visual novels over here in the West, and that was their first look into that type of game, and it opened a lot of people because it was so good. It was such a memorable experience for a lot of people because they'd never experienced something like that, and it was so well written that they then find trouble with these other visual novels that they're reading that are just not good at all. And my problem with Doki Doki Literature Club is not that it's a bad game, because it does do some very experimental and interesting things, but it's not really a good game either, because it doesn't really have its own legs to stand on. It relies too much on the shock value and the fact that it's, oh, look at us, we're a visual novel, but not really. We're doing things that visual novels don't normally do. Ha, but you wish you could save and reload. No, you can't do that. Ha ha. And it bothers me that visual novels, as they are right now, are in that state where they're not relying on a good story to stand out. They're relying on gimmicks like that to have people be drawn to them. And I mean, another series that I enjoy is not really indie, is Danganronpa, but that's written by a more, not really AAA, but it's written by a bigger company. And if anybody that's played Danganronpa version 3 knows, the ending to that game was horrid. It was so bad. Because they pushed in Danganronpa version 3, spoilers ahead, because they pushed in that fourth wall break and just destroyed any sense of just characterization or development. Everything was just ruined. Everything up to that point was so good that, like, they're good at writing characters, but then they trample over it with this fourth wall breaking, not really a visual novel bullshit that they do. And that's what's holding Doki Doki Literature Club back from being a good game with good characters, because they can't really develop these characters further because they've restrained themselves to having these characters exist solely because they need them to be there as an object for the player to recognize, like, okay, well, I can't interact with that person anymore because Monica deleted them. Instead of it being, like, truly devastating, where it's like, holy shit, Monica just killed that person. They didn't have to make Monica, like, computer AI lady. They could have just made her a crazy person that wanted to kill people, and they could have written each individual character better because of that, if they didn't have to integrate that crazy fourth wall breaking nonsense into it. Anyway, that's all I gotta say. This isn't really an Ace Approves. This is more of a something else. Just a random ass miscellaneous video. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is probably gonna get like 80 views. All you guys who come watch my videos and comment on all my posts, I love you all. You're my dedicated fans. And I will see you whenever I decide to upload a video next time. I don't know when that's gonna be. None of us do. But I'll see you next time.